Some people think a company gala is just for clapping at fancy speeches and taking pictures with a champagne glass in hand. But in that luxurious ballroom, with a glass ceiling and a chandelier the size of a small car, what was about to pop wasn't champagne, it was a secret buried for years. It was one of those nights money loves: French buffet, red carpet, live saxophonist, and camera flashes fighting for space with guest egos. At the center of it all, like a king on a marble throne, was him, Gustavo Leme, the real estate mogul, millionaire before 40, handsome, vain, adored and feared. He wore a navy blue tailored suit sewn with pure pride. With each toast, he smiled. With each compliment, he smiled. But no one knew that night would end with him on his knees, broken, trembling. The bus started when he walked in with his date. She wasn't a model, an actress, or a famous executive. She was the nanny. That's right, his children's nanny. A simple but elegant dress, hair tied neatly, and a look that mixed respect with a hint of old pain. "Who is she?" whispered the partners. Gustavo's new lover, others speculated. But he only said, "She saved my family. She deserves to be here more than half the big shots." The night continued with toasts and speeches until the Vision of the Year award was announced. Gustavo went up on stage, took the nanny with him, and made what he would later call the most honest mistake of his life. "This woman here cared for my kids as if they were her own today. She's part of our family. Thank you, Clara." The room applauded, but she didn't smile. She took the mic and said, "Gustavo, it's time you knew the truth." Silence, heavy, icy. "I didn't come here just to smile. I came because I can't hide it anymore." And that's when the gala turned into a courtroom. The ballroom, which minutes earlier pulsed with laughter and toasts, now felt frozen. Glasses trembled in hands. Smiles faded. Gustavo looked at Clara like someone seeing a ghost rise in the middle of mass. "Clara, what are you talking about?" He tried to laugh, like it was a joke. But what she pulled from her pocket wasn't a punchline. It was a folded piece of paper. Her hands trembled slightly, but it wasn't fear. It was memory, old pain, the kind that ferments. "Do you remember Francisca?" Gustavo, the name dropped like a blade. It struck hard in his chest. For a second, he blinked differently. Only those watching closely saw the crack on that face of marble. "Francisca," he repeated, confused, or pretending to be. Clara took a deep breath, squared her jaw. "She was my sister, and that was it." Whisper turned into stifled scandal. Who was Francisca? And why did that name dim the light in Gustavo's eyes? He stepped back, straightened his suit, tried to keep his tone calm. "Clara, this isn't the place or the time. Let's talk later." But she didn't let him. "It is the time, because you brought me here like a trophy. Now deal with what comes with it." The press camera is still rolling, phones already raised. The scene spreading through WhatsApp groups faster than champagne had been poured. "You made my sister disappear 20 years ago and pretended she never existed." Silent scream, and in the back, someone dropped a glass. The past had just arrived at the party, and it came thirsty for reckoning. Before she was the nanny to the mogul's children, Clara already knew that surname, Leme, the one stamped on luxury buildings and magazine covers. The same one on her sister Francisca's old work badge. "My sister worked in your family's house. She was your mother's maid." Gustavo shook his head, trying to deny the inevitable. "That was decades ago. Clara, you're confused." But she was sharper than ever. "I'm not confused. You were just a spoiled teenager. But you'd already learned from your father how to sweep dirt under the rug. And my sister was swept away like trash." Clara felt the weight of her words. But she'd carried worse, mourning without a body, silence without explanation. One day, she was called into your father's office. After that, she never came back. Gustavo was sweating now. "We looked for her, cops, neighbors, nothing. And your family, they said she ran off with a boyfriend, that she was simple, unstable, trouble. They threw mud on her to cover what they did." Clara's eyes glistened. "But I never bought it. And when they hired me as your nanny, and I saw your mother, I knew I was in the right place." She wasn't there to care for children. She was there to care for Justice. And now, with everyone watching, she was starting to unearth what had been buried alive. What Clara revealed that night was just the tip of what she knew, because the rest she had kept in a box. During the years I worked there, I gathered things, copies, clippings, letters. I knew the time would come. And it did. in the attic of the old Leme family house where no one had stepped since the matriarch fell. Clara found what she called the puzzle pieces, photos of my sister with bruises, letters she wrote, and even a diary, hidden inside a Bible, as if God could protect what was written in there. Gustavo tried to interrupt, but the crowd was on her side now. Every word was a scream many had never dared to utter in the diary. She wrote about threats, humiliation, and something more. Clara's voice faltered. For the first time, she almost stopped. But no, she was pregnant. And then the world fell apart in that ballroom. No one knew what to say. Gustavo unbuttoned his collar like he was suffocating. My father didn't want scandal. Clara, he shouted. Finally, I was just a kid. I didn't know. But she cut in. Firm. And now you're a man. And you're going to hear everything. Because that child might have had more Leme blood than half the people in that room. The gala had become a courtroom without a judge, but with an audience. And what Clara pulled from her purse now wasn't a microphone. It was proof. I did the test. Before coming here, with material from Francisca's diary and yours, Gustavo. His eyes widened. How did you, hairbrush from your kids? You left it in the guest suite. I took a hair strand. Legal authorization, everything by the book. Gustavo's lawyers, who had been whispering among themselves, went quiet. They knew they were standing on a minefield, and it came back positive. 99.9%. The child she lost was your father's. Gustavo's world collapsed, because now it wasn't just about the nanny's sister. It was about the grandfather of his children, about a legacy stained, a fortune built on silence. Your family buried a scandal and destroyed a life to keep a clean name. The tycoon, the king of the market, the untouchable, fell into his chair, pale, sweating, trembling. What do you want? He asked in a whisper, and Clara answered without hesitation, truth. That's all, but truth, my friend, usually costs more than any prize handed out that night. Asterisk the next day. The name Clara was all over the news, but not as the nanny, as the woman who unearthed the past of the most powerful family in town. Gustavo locked himself inside his penthouse, surrounded by lawyers, advisors, and therapists. But none of them could quiet the storm inside him, because that night, he felt something he hadn't felt since he was a child. Fear. Clara. Who was this Francisca, really? That's what he asked himself while staring at an old picture frame hidden in the mansion's library. Wedged between pages of a book about business ethics, he found a photo of his father's youth, and in the background, her, Francisca. She was there this whole time. He murmured, hands shaking, but there was something strange. The young woman's face had been partially torn away. That wasn't an accident. It was intention, a deliberate attempt to erase. That's when Gustavo went down into his mother's basement where everything smelled of mold, except the memories, and found an old box of documents. Inside, mixed among bills and receipts, there was an unset letter written in his mother's shaky handwriting. Francisca, forgive me. I couldn't protect you from him. His blood ran cold. That handwriting was his mother's, and that him was his father. Gustavo started to realize the story was worse than he thought. It wasn't just a hidden affair. It was buried violence, silent trauma. And now all of it had a name, a face, and an echo. Haunted by confusion, Gustavo went in search of the only thing that could offer some closure, a grave. But when he arrived at the cemetery where an old family employee had said Francisca was buried, the tombstone had a different name. But that's not her, he whispered, stunned out the gravedigger. A quiet man with a worn-out hat looked at him with suspicion. A lot of folks got buried here under the wrong name, sir. There was a young woman, years ago, brought in by high-up people, said she was a Jane Doe. But her hands were well kept. Not someone from the street. No, sir. Gustavo swallowed hard. Is there any record? There was. In the old logbook, but it vanished during a renovation, or someone made it vanish. And just like that, Francisca's burial turned out to be a cover-up with a fake address. Back in the car, Gustavo watched the city blur past the window like a place he no longer recognized. And he wondered how many stories like this are buried out there under the wrong name, wrong cause, bought silence. But what hurt the most was realizing he had lived under the same roof with Clara for years and never knew she was Francisca's sister, never noticed, never asked. The truth is, when we don't want to see, everything becomes background. Asterisk 2. Weeks after the gala, The company's board demanded a public statement. Investors wanted distance from scandals. The image of the Leme empire was crumbling faster than a poorly built tower. "You need to issue a retraction," said the PR advisor. "Say it was a misunderstanding, that the woman was emotionally unstable." But Gustavo didn't respond. He just stared at a white envelope on his desk. It was a letter from Clara, handwritten, short, direct. "You brought me to the party. Now listen to me as a man, not as a boss, not as a CEO. As the son of the man who destroyed my family, I'll be at the gazebo in Italia Square, the 12th, 3 p.m. If you want the whole truth, come, alone." Gustavo looked at the clock. 10 minutes to 3. And against every lawyer's advice, every PR strategy, he went. When he arrived, the gazebo was empty, but there was a bench with flowers and a cardboard box. Inside, old photos, letters, a necklace with the name Chico, and a cell phone. When he turned it on, the first thing he heard was Clara's voice in a recorded video. "If you're watching this, it means you had the courage to show up. Now brace yourself." And what came next was revelation after revelation. The video lasted over 30 minutes. Clara, seated in a simple armchair, an album on her lap, her eyes red. "I'm recording this because I don't trust that you listen to me in person. But now you will, because you owe me that, and because your family owes the world the truth." She opened the album. "This is my sister. Before the horror, before your father." The photos showed a smiling young woman in a white uniform, eyes glowing with hope, a glow that would later be extinguished. Clara continued, "She entered your family's house full of hope and left it pregnant, shattered, and threatened." Next pages were filled with letters written by Francisca, with phrases like, "He said if I speak, no one will believe me. Madam cries, but she's afraid of losing her reputation. They're going to send me away, but my baby will be born." Gustavo was breathing heavily, every phrase a punch. But then came the final blow. Gustavo, she had the baby. He didn't die. He choked. That's right. He was sent to an orphanage. No name, no records. Only a necklace with the letter C, the same one from the box. The same one Clara had kept for years. And now, he wants to meet you. The video ended. The screen went black. But Gustavo's mind went into meltdown. The next day, as if fate had written it like a movie. Gustavo went to the orphanage Clara had named, small, humble, but clean, with a garden full of flowers, a place of abandonment and of hope. "Are you talking about Caio?" asked the coordinator, surprised. "Caio?" Gustavo echoed, his voice cracking. "Yes, he grew up here, had several adoption attempts, but never stayed long. Always said he needed to find Aunt Clara, talked about her like a mother." Gustavo held back tears. "Where is he now?" "Works nearby, at a second-hand book stand in the central square." Without thinking, he ran there, and there he was, a young man in his 20s, deep-set eyes, calloused hands, organizing stacks of books with care. As Gustavo approached, the young man looked up. He had Francisca's eyes, same iris, same intensity. "Can I help you?" the boy asked politely. Gustavo tried to speak, but his voice failed. The words vanished. All he could say was, "Are you Caio?" The boy nodded, slightly suspicious. "Yes." "Why?" Gustavo pulled the necklace from his pocket, the same from the box, and held it out with a trembling hand. Caio looked, touched it, recognized it. Clara said, "If someone gave this to me, it meant there was something big I needed to hear," and there was. But how do you tell someone that the blood running in their veins belongs to the very family that tried to erase their existence? That same night, Gustavo returned home carrying the necklace like it weighed more than gold. He sat at the piano, one he hadn't touched in years, and let the silence flood the house. But this time, it wasn't peaceful. It was deafening. Clara had warned him in the video, "What you do with this truth is your choice." But silence is no longer an option. So he went back to the basement, to the pile of memories. And there, tucked between forgotten files, he found an envelope with no stamp, no name, just a trembling handwriting he recognized immediately, his mother's. Inside, a letter addressed to no one, or to everyone. "I tried. I really tried. But I was afraid. Afraid of him. Afraid of what the world would say. Francisca deserved more. She was kind. She smiled even when she was afraid. She begged me not to let them take the baby. I didn't help. I watched God Forgive Me. Tears blurred the page. Gustavo could barely breathe. The image of his mother, his protector, the gentle one now cracked like porcelain. She had known. She had let it happen, and maybe, deep down, the entire family had learned to live with the cost of silence. But he couldn't anymore. Asterisk that week, Gustavo did something no Leme had ever done. He opened the family home to journalists, not for PR, not for damage control, to tell the story, the real one. Claire stood beside him. Kyle too. Cameras rolled as he led them through the halls, now echoing, with a new kind of voice. This house was built with silence, he said, pointing to the stairwell. But silence is what allowed pain to grow here. He showed the attic, the Bible with the diary, the bruised photos, the letter from his mother. The press didn't know what to say. For once, a powerful man wasn't hiding behind his lawyers. He was confessing. I can't erase the pain, he added, but I can make sure the story lives, and that it protects others. A reporter raised her hand. Are you doing this out of guilt? He nodded yes, but not just mine. Generational guilt. I won't pass it forward. It was raw, unpolished, but it was real. And that day, the Leme house stopped being a monument to prestige and became a museum of truth. Some things weigh more than gold. A sincere apology with no excuses. That night, what was served at the table wasn't just food, it was raw truth. Claire arrived on time. She wore a simple dress, the kind chosen not to impress, but to assert strength. Her face held the serenity of someone who suffered without losing dignity. Kyle followed behind her, quiet, hands in his pockets. Eyes guarded. Gustavo opened the door with a hesitant smile. No butler, no fancy greeting, just him, wearing an apron, his face flushed from cooking. Sorry for the mess. I tried to make it like my mom used to. On the table, warm rice, golden pan-fried chicken, rustic salad, fresh cashew juice, a real dinner, no golden cutlery. But the silence, that was heavier than anything. Thank you for coming, Gustavo began, voice low. Clara nodded. Kyle too, but leaned back slightly, unsure whether he was there out of curiosity or justice. I know no meal can fix the past, but I want us to look at each other as people. No masks, no shields, just eye to eye. Claire pulled out her chair and sat. Kyle followed, eyes still fixed on his plate, avoiding Gustavo's gaze. I grew up thinking family meant blood ties. Now I see blood can also be chains. And sometimes, the people who save us don't share our name, but share our heart. Kyle finally spoke. Why now? Gustavo took a deep breath. Because now, I listen. Before, I only talked. Dinner went on in slow bites, long pauses, until Clara recounted a night when Francisca cried in her lap, whispering that she was afraid of disappearing without being remembered. Kyle set his fork down. She never forgot me, did she? Never, Clara said firmly. She visited you even when they moved you to new homes, even when they said you were difficult. She used to say, one day, he'll know who he is. Gustavo couldn't hold the tears anymore. When he saw the boy's face, recognizing in himself the echo of a woman erased from history, he broke. I can't change what was done, but I can make sure it never happens again. Clara reached across the table, and Kyle, hesitantly, did the same. That touch didn't seal a deal. It planted forgiveness. Forgiveness that took time, but came clean. Asterisk, the following days were for rebuilding. But like any old building, before raising new walls, the rotten parts must be torn down. Gustavo called the Leme board to a meeting. Full room, crisp suits, powerful people. But what he brought wasn't a chart or a forecast. It was truth. Today I speak not as CEO, but as heir to a tainted legacy. And I refuse to stay silent. Some gulp, others frown. My family erased a woman, hid a child, silenced a sister, and the company grew on that silence. This will destroy us in the media, said one of the executives. Then let it, and let something better grow in its place. That's when he unveiled the project, the Francisca Institute, a foundation for women victims of abuse, offering psychological, legal, and professional help, and more. A portion of company profits will fund this permanently, and our headquarters will now bear her name. The room went silent, but it was a silence filled with history, not shame. The news spread like wildfire. Headlines, interviews, applause, and backlash. But Gustavo didn't flinch. He invited Clara to chair the Foundation Social Council. She accepted with one condition: I want the first center built in the neighborhood, where she was born, where no one even knew she existed. And now we'll never forget her. And so it was that Gustavo began attending meetings, listening to stories his wealth had never imagined, reading letters from survivors, shaking rough hands, and there, he learned what his father never did, that a name, without respect, is just noise. Today, the Italian square woke up different. It wasn't market day, nor a protest, nor a festival. It was a day of remembrance. At the center, the old gazebo, now restored with yellow flowers and new wooden benches, bore a bronze plaque, gleaming. In the sun, here, someone was heard for the first time. Gustavo gave a short speech, nothing grand. He spoke softly, eyes misty, truth swelling in his chest. My story was written with silence. But today I wanted to continue with listening. Francisca is no longer here, but her voice echoes in every step Clara takes and in every dream Caio dares to chase. The young man, now with more maturity in his face and light in his eyes, also spoke, unscripted. I'm the son of a woman they tried to erase, but they forgot something. When roots are strong, the tree grows even in the shadows. Standing ovation. Clara moved, placed a photo of her sister on the ground. On the back, handwritten in blue ink, the truth never dies. It just waits. And this old grandpa, sitting here on the porch, ends this tale with a question. How many people do? You know we're silenced, but still scream on the inside. Some are born invisible, but they were never meant to stay forgotten. If this story stirred something inside you, leave a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe so you don't miss the next tale from Grandpa Rico, because here, even silence speaks.